everybody is beautiful is about the fact that in our society we don't acknowledge that each of us have a right to be in our physicality and have a right to be who we authentically are. Beauty is also size 16, and beauty is also Asian and Black and all of the things. Beauty is all of it. This one standard size is beautiful, and so am I. Hello, my loves, it's Darlene. Welcome to our first session in the Fashion Framework series. I'm so excited to share with you the process of taking a fashion design concept through the concept process into development. Hi. Hi, I'm Darlene.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks. Jordan, nice to meet you. Hi, Ollie, good to see you again. Hi, Annie. Good to see you again. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I know we have a couple of participants online. Hello, online. Thank you for being here. We are so excited to share with you the concept and the process through which really any art and any design can be taken through this process. I specifically focus on fashion design because that's what I do. I consider myself a sculptor of fabric, and I really work and think about how to take fabric and mold it around the human body. And fashion is really important to me. And fashion is really important to me because cloth is the only thing between me and my environment. When I am out in the world and I'm interacting with the world, the only thing that physically protects me, that is between me and you, is the cloth that I have wrapped around my body. And I'm really, it's really important to me that the cloth that's wrapped around my body was treated well by human hands and has been taken from the environment in a way that is ethical and sensible. I don't want the thing that's touching my body, that is absorbing into my skin, to be something that's absorbing negative energy. I don't want the thing that's absorbing into my body to be toxic to the environment. I want it to be something that is kind and ethical. I want the people who have been touching the things that are on my body to have been treated well. I want the hands that are working on the things that are around my body to be happy hands. So everything I do as a fashion designer and everything that I work with as a fashion designer comes back to, did I treat the human hands well? Did I treat my environment well? And am I treating the person who's wearing it well? Because we all know how a really good outfit can change your day. You know, it's hard to have a bad day in these boots, right? I can't have a bad day in these boots. And when I'm wearing one of my crowns, right, it is hard to have a bad day. So I specifically focus on fashion because that's what I do and that's my medium. However, this process can be used for any type of art, any type of design, any type of concept that we're developing, okay? So let me tell you a little bit about who I am and a little bit about my background. And again, the only reason I do this is so that you guys know that the person that you're learning from has been in it. The only reason I'm taking you through this process is so that you understand that I'm in the trenches too. I'm digging it out too. I've been there, I've done it. I'm Darlene. My middle initial, C, is my mother's name. It's very important to me. I miss her every day. And so I use her middle initial to honor her. I am a designer, a creative director, a product developer. I am also a teacher, an author, a mentor, and a coach. I started my fashion design career in New York in 1995. I was an assistant designer for a lot of private label companies. The ones that you guys probably know is Uniqlo. I was hired by a New York company to open their LA office. So I moved to LA, was in LA when my son was born and knew I didn't want to raise him in LA. And it was in LA that I fell in love with teaching. And I started teaching formally in LA and then moved to San Diego because it was a better environment to raise my son. I was in San Diego when a position here in Colorado opened up, and Colorado is my home state. I was born and raised here in Colorado, so the idea of coming home was pretty exciting. I've been back here in Colorado. I have shown in New York Fashion Week, London Fashion Week, and Denver Fashion Week, among a ton of other fashion shows. I've worked in large corporations, I've worked in startups, I've worked in education, and it's been just a tremendous journey along the way. One of the things, you know, when I started in formal education, I realized I needed to go back and make sure that I was formally educated. I had my bachelor's degree in fashion design, but I thought that a marketing degree would supplement that, so I went back and got a master's in marketing, and then kind of fell in love with the education process a little more, and went back again and got a doctorate in organizational leadership. So I'm formally educated and I am experienced and have done this work for a long time. Again, the only reason I share all of that with you all is so that you know that the person who's standing up in front of you, I know what I'm talking about. Like, not just because I'm arrogant, but because I know what I'm talking about, right? So, when I came back to Colorado and I started teaching here in Colorado and I started looking around at the Colorado fashion scene and seeing what was happening in Colorado, I kind of started showcasing my own designs again just to sort of open doors for students and to sort of make a way for students to get into some of the shows that were happening in Colorado. And it's worked. A lot of my former students are now showing all across Colorado, and that's been awesome. And in the process, I remembered my own design voice. In the process, I remembered that I had something to say, and that my career in mentoring and helping others find their voice was something I wanted to continue to do, but I also wanted to bring my voice to the table because I believe really strongly that every body is beautiful. I believe really strongly that clothes should fit us and that we should not have to change who we are to be fashionable. Thank you. I believe really strongly that fabric is malleable and I shouldn't have to adjust who I am to be able to appreciate that. In the process of showcasing in order to open design doors for other students, I realized that that was not being said often enough. Part of the reason I got into the fashion industry is, you know, I'm 5'2". I've never been tall, I've never been thin, I'm never going to be. But I know what a good outfit can do, and I know how a good outfit can change my day. So I got into the industry because back in the 80s and 90s, when flat butts were the scene, I was nothing, and I knew that that wasn't right, that clothes should fit me. So I got into the industry because I wanted you all to not have to feel that. I wanted you all to not have to feel like you weren't enough because your body was not the ideal, or what the fashion industry called the ideal, right? Because we are all beautiful. We are all stunning. We are all living in our own skin, and what our bodies can do is phenomenal. You know, the fact that I'm even standing up straight right now is phenomenal. The idea that my body can climb a mountain or all the crazy things my body can do is phenomenal, and that is beautiful, and we should appreciate that in and of itself. So through the process, I found my design voice, and I realized that the industry needed to hear this, that I needed to add my voice to those that were saying that we are all of us, each of us, beautiful and gorgeous and phenomenal in who we are. And I don't have to change who I am to be that, because I am already that. And you are already that. Look me in the eye. You are already that. You are already that. You are already that. You are already that. So, that's my design voice, and that's where I come from. Let's talk a little bit about, so I went to New York Fashion Week in September. And New York Fashion Week in September changed my life. And I want to tell you guys a little bit of the story behind it. And the reason why I want to share this story with you is because I think hearing this story might help you all get to that place where when it happens, you can be ready. Okay? So I was working with a private client, and I had developed a product line for this private client, and my name was nowhere on it. It was an individual client, and we were supposed to take one of their collections to New York Fashion Week. New York Fashion Week, the date that we had planned was September 11th. In August, about a month before the show, the client decided that they didn't want to go. They decided that New York Fashion Week wasn't for them, and they pulled out of the show. We were going to lose our money. It was already paid for. And I thought, you know what? I'll just take DCR Studios. I'll just take my private collection a month before the show. Why I thought that producing an entire new collection in 1 month would be a good idea, I don't know. The point of the story is that when the opportunity comes, be ready. When the opportunity comes, don't say no. You know, when it is so clearly in front of you, and when the universe is saying, here you go, you know that gift you've always wanted? Pick it up. Regardless of whether you think you have time, regardless of whether you think you are ready, pick up that present, because the universe is giving it to you for a reason. I want to share with you guys a little bit about what happened at New York Fashion Week, because I want you to have an understanding of what this did for me. Now, take a real good look at this photo, because I'm going to show you an inspirational photo that led directly to this look. Right? Is that a killer opening? And do you see how it moved right into the next outfit? I love that sass with the hair. I'm going to tell you a story about Griffin in a minute. So we were out having drinks the night before the show, and Griffin walked past us, and Genesis says, oh, he has a great walk. And I said, go get him. And she chased him down the street, and then he modeled in New York Fashion Week the next day. Katie? Katie's been my muse since my first show in Denver. This girl right here has been my muse since 2015. Now I want you guys to watch this. Watch that face. Right? whatever I had put on that model was going to sell, right? It didn't matter. The way that he sold that, I love that look over her shoulder. Okay, I want you guys to watch right here. Watch right here. Do you see that reaction? Okay, I want to show you guys something here. I'm going to be 52 years old tomorrow.
No way.
Yeah. I'm 5'2", and I'm not thin. And I have worked in the fashion industry since 1995. Okay? I have never been the fashion industry ideal, and I have never truly felt myself. Oh, wait, we got to see that again. Okay. I've had the eating disorders. I've had the body image issues. I have struggled with that since my teenage years, and it is not something that leaves me. This moment, I felt myself. I truly felt myself for the first time. And in this moment, something utterly and completely changed for me. As a fashion designer, as a creative director, as a woman, as a human being. I've had all the issues. I've had the fertility issues. I've gone through the times when I haven't even felt like a woman, where I felt like a shell. And this moment changed everything for me. I want to show it to you again, because I want you to see the look on my face. I want you to see the look on my face. Ah! You can't see my face! Only my butt!
It's a nice butt.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I have never felt comfortable with my butt, ever. I have always felt that my butt is just my worst feature.
What?
Always, my whole life. So watch this. Watch this. That's my sister giving me flowers and me tripping over the guy next to her. Watch right here. See how I shake it a little? This moment changed my life. Why am I telling you all about this in a seminar on research? Right? I'm telling you about this on a seminar on research because I want you to understand that your art, your design does not come just from the things that you see. It also comes from the things that you are. That your concept of design and development and product is not just about the research, it's about who you are and what you bring to the table, okay? So this is not just a seminar on research. This is a seminar on becoming an artist and becoming a designer, okay? I know that I'm taking you down kind of a weird little rabbit hole. You all seem to be enjoying it. Y'all seem to be enjoying it. Are we enjoying it online? We doing okay online? Okay, good. Now I want to show you guys this one, and what I want you to listen to in this version is I want you to listen to the audience, and I want you to hear how the audience is reacting. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the story. Okay, so I had a month to get this collection together. And I had to pull a few things from previous collections, and I had to design a collection around it. And I'm going to show you the inspiration that happened behind those redesigns as we move forward in the next couple of slides. Because this was so last minute, and because this was so crazy, I didn't have models the day before the show. I had brought with me 4 models to New York, and the day before the show, I couldn't get a hold of the producer, and I didn't know whether or not I had models. So I sent a text out to all the models that were with me, and one of our models, Davery, he's phenomenal and amazing. He texted all of his dance partners and said, "Who's in New York? And are you available tomorrow?" And he started sending me dancers who had never walked a runway before, had no idea what modeling was about, but they had moved in their bodies as dancers and understood what moving in their bodies was about. So they showed up. And this was a CFDA show. This was a council of, I forget what CFDA stands for, but this is one of those big stamped shows. Like, this is the official New York Fashion Week. And we're calling people the day before the show saying, "Do you want to go to a random girl's hotel room and get fitted for random garments that you're going to wear in an official New York Fashion Week tomorrow?" Now, I've already told you all about my belief as a designer that every body is beautiful. And I've already shared with you all the background behind why I feel that we need to accept our bodies as they are in order to be able to treat them well so that we can move forward. Because I'm not going to treat my body well if I don't like it, right? The more I like my body, the more I'm going to treat it well. These folks showed up and they showed out. And I think New York Fashion Week really responded to it. And I want you, in the next video I'm going to show you, I want you guys to really listen to the crowd reaction, because the crowd reaction that I got at New York Fashion Week was beyond anything I had ever heard. And I think it had to do with these models feeling themselves. I think it had to do with the fact that these models were in and of themselves and feeling it. That they were not the traditional models, and they were just at New York Fashion Week making a killing. I want you to listen to I want you to listen to the way that the audience reacted. It's the same walk, but listen to the crowd. And watch what's happening in the audience. Do you see the cameras going up? Those cameras were not going up before she walked out. They saw her walk out and the cameras went up. Do you see these folks over here on the left-hand side getting ready to take those photos? They weren't doing that before we walked out. So I was telling you the story about this guy. He walked past us the night before the show, and he had a great walk, and so we ran him down. His name is Griffin. We ran him down on the street, pulled him aside, and I said, "Hey, I'm Darlene. I know this sounds really weird, but I'm a fashion designer. Would you want to walk in New York Fashion Week tomorrow?" And he's like, But he showed up and he turned out, didn't he? Now this guy's a dancer. Watch this. He's like, "Look at my abs." I met Katie at a dive bar karaoke, and I saw her walking across the stage at dive bar karaoke, and I loved her movement. And she's walked with me in almost every show I've done since the very first one. Now listen to this. Do you hear that? Do you hear the audience reacting to this model? Do you hear how the audience is like, they're not used to seeing this body type. They're not used to seeing this ethnicity. They're not used to seeing this on the runway. Did you hear them react? It was phenomenal. This is Davry. Look at that. Do you hear the audience back there? Roxanne's about 5'4". Look at the confidence she's moving with, right? That's what sells clothes. That's what sells imagery. Look at that movement. Okay, now watch this right here. Do you hear it? Do you see that?
Yes.
Do you see them snapping? Listen. You don't hear that at fashion shows. That reaction, you don't hear that at fashion shows. That's not what fashion people do. But they did here. Do you hear that? I'm not used to that kind of response. Do you guys want to see some of the pieces that were at New York Fashion Week? Yeah. Let me bring up Genesis. So let me tell you a little bit about this. Everybody is beautiful. Notice how we've got the two words separated, everybody. It's not one word. We are all, each of us, individual bodies, beautiful. Now, this one makes it really easy. This skirt was actually a vegetable dye batik. And it was something that I got from an artisan in San Francisco. They just had this batik on sale, and I got 10 yards of it, and this is all I got. So it's all over. And then this fabric here was something that I found on Amazon, of all places. But listen to that, isn't that fun? Hi, honey. We did a special crowning ceremony before New York, where I put the crown on each model and I whispered in their ear what they meant to me. And I told them how important they were to this show, and I told each and every model that we were going to change the fashion industry, and we were going to change the fashion world with what we were doing that night, and it did. So as I put on everybody's crown, I leaned over and I whispered in their ear and told them what they meant to me. How did you feel about the crowning?
Very
She's
emotional.
tearing up. She's tearing up. Oh. All right, Sam, come on up. So let me tell you a little bit about Sam. Hi, honey. I'm talking about you in the third person. Sorry about that. Sam is actually the communications director for DCR Studios, and we were on a trip selling a different client's collection. And as we were talking, Sam was telling me about how she had never felt beautiful. That is it okay if I share the story?
Absolutely.
I'm going to go ahead and share the story. As an adoptee, and as a young Chinese girl working and growing up in Arvada, Colorado, where there was not a lot of diversity and there was not a lot of understanding, she had never really felt as though she was given the process of being beautiful. And she wanted to walk the runway in New York Fashion Week to prove to every little Chinese girl that they too could be beautiful. Did you hear the way that audience reacted to her? Did you hear the screams? Did you hear the cheers? You, my darling, are beautiful. You are beautiful. And whatever anybody has ever said about that little Chinese girl, they are wrong. They are wrong. You are beautiful. I love you. Now that's an exit, right? Girlfriend just got like this total one-on-one connection, and girlfriend just got this total cheering on and that building up. But did you see that exit?
Yeah.
Did you see that exit? She owned it. If we own ourselves, if we build each other up, if we feel good in our clothing and the fabric that is between you and me, then we're going to exit like that, right? That's what looks good on the runway. That's what's beautiful. That's what means something to the world. I can throw a tall, skinny woman down the runway. There are so many glorious models down the runway, but what really makes the difference is this. It's the grace and the beauty and the humility that really makes the difference. It's not just clothes. It's the thing that is between us. It's the thing that surrounds us. And you carry that off beautifully.
Thank you so much. I love you so much.
And did you see her sashay off? Right? Did you see that sashay? When we feel good in and of ourselves, we present ourselves in a way that feels good. All right, so let's talk a little bit about inspiration. And let's talk a little bit about research and the different types of research that we do when we're trying to gather information as we start to wrap ourselves around how to drive our collections forward. Now, again, I'm applying this directly to fashion because that's my medium, but this process can be applied to any of the arts and any of the design fields. This is just, I'm applying it to fashion because that's what I do, okay? So I told you all a little bit that New York Fashion Week was sort of last minute, and I only had a month to produce the collection, right? So I was trying to get ideas, and the things that I was pulling out of stock that I was able to reuse and recycle and redo just didn't have that oomph, that excitement that New York Fashion Week needed to have. And I was really trying to get myself around, how am I going to make this the next step? How am I going to take this to the next level? In that process, I had gone out to a, come on in, join us, hello. I had gone to visit a, all right, let me take a step back. Okay, so I was trying to figure out how to take New York Fashion Week to that next level and to give it that oomph. And, you know, I was figuring it out and trying to figure it out. I had gone to a presentation that a friend of mine was doing. It was a movie and entertainment venue that Denver was holding. And DeMarcio Slaughter has been a private client of mine for several years now, and I've done a lot of work for him for the Pride Fest, for the main stage at Pride Fest. And he was emceeing a movie and show, drag show. So we were going down to this movie and drag show, and he did this reveal at the movie. And I thought, why can't I put that on stage at New York Fashion Week? That's the oomph that I needed. And so I started to think about some of the work that I do for drag and for private clients and for LGBTQ+. And it came to me that that if everybody is beautiful, and if we are all trying to find our ways in our own body, how much more poignant is that when I start to incorporate the work that I do with LGBTQ+. This is a community that's never felt completely accepted. Why not bring that into fashion? Why not bring that into New York Fashion Week? So I brought in some of the capes that I have done for the Pride Fest shows, and I brought that into to Everybody is Beautiful. And I had been out with my sisters. We had gone on a sisters weekend in Las Vegas, and we had gone to this exposition, and this phoenix here really struck out at me because I am a woman rising from the ashes. And I really loved this imagery, so I hired an artist to paint it on the back of a leather jacket. And this is a one-to-one correlation between what inspired me and what it looked like on garments. Okay, so this is a direct result here. And these are some of the images and some of the things that really drove my design decisions as I was moving into New York Fashion Week. When we talk about research and we talk about how we as designers and artists do our research, there are several different ways that we can do that research. We can conduct primary research where we go to museums and exhibits and things like that. We can conduct secondary research where we look at the research that other trend forecasters or designers have done and what they've put together. And then we can scan our environment. We can see what people around us are wearing, what people around us are doing, and what that looks like in the day-to-day environment. So this is a trend board that was put together by Vogue, right? And it shows some of the trend research that Vogue did. So this is some primary research that I conducted. These are some photographs that I took when I was in Florence teaching a textile design class. I highly recommend always taking pictures wherever you go. Something looks interesting, snap it, okay? Because these photographs right here, this imagery right here moved directly into New York Fashion Week. Did you see the embroidery? Yeah, and it was taken directly from here. This is primary research. This is research that I conducted myself when I was out and about. These are some photographs that I took when I went to the Gregory Peck exhibit at Denver Museum of Art. And I am really in love with this fur collar thing. I think I want to crop this jacket and cut off the sleeves and do something with this for spring 23. And I'm kind of grooving on this sort of off-the-shoulder blouse kind of thing. I really think I'm going to try and take this into spring 23. Who doesn't love a good swing dress? And who doesn't love a good swoosh back, right? I'm actually working on a design right now that for a international speaker, and we're using this as part of our inspiration, that swoosh back. Okay, so this is some of the primary research that I've conducted for my next season. Now, trend reports. There are a lot of companies who do really, really good trend reporting. And you can see that these are the top 12 according to Fashion Frill. I have personally used WGSN, Fashion Snoops, Trendstop, Trend Council, and Pantone. Trend Council, WGSN, and Pantone are my favorites. And they're the ones that I look at all the time. And this is the kind of trend board that they put together. So when you're doing trend forecasting, so what a trend forecaster does is these are companies that go out and they go to all the runway shows, they shop all the markets, they look at all the windows, and they take all of that information and they analyze it and see where the commonalities are. They see, you know, how many different designers did florals or how many different designers did pastels, and they take all of this information and pull out the pieces that are similar between all of the pieces and then present that to fashion companies and say, these are the similarities, here's where we're seeing a lot of repeat information, here's where we're seeing a lot of things moving forward. Do not discredit the importance of trend forecast services. A lot of people and I hear it all the time. Why should I look at somebody else's research? Why should I, what about my own take? What about my own information? I'm sorry, but these folks have resources I don't have. And these folks have time and energy into one specific things, and they are experts at that one specific thing, and let's honor their expertise and understand that what they're telling us is these are the commonalities that they've seen, and that cannot be discredited. It can't. Now, how I apply that to my target market is up to me and my lens and my worldview, but not paying attention to what trend forecasters do because you feel like it's not creative is taking away an entire piece of information that could drive your design decisions, okay? They have resources you don't have. Take advantage of that. Now, I was going through, when I was putting together this PowerPoint, I was going through and I was looking at some things, and I noticed that Pantone in the PowerPoint templates had a whole PowerPoint in the PowerPoint templates that was all about trend forecasting for 2022. And I wanted to show it to you guys because I thought it was so interesting that as I was trying to find a PowerPoint template, I found trend forecasting as I was trying to put together a PowerPoint on trend forecasting. Yeah. So I wanted to show it to you because the color of the year, Pantone is the expert in color. They just are. And their color of the year is Very Peri, right? And this is what they're talking about. They're giving you a description as to why Very Peri is important to color forecast this year and what's behind it. Now, when you see a 6-digit number like this, that is from the Fashion and Home Interior Pantone library. Pantone has several different libraries. They have some that are printed on matte paper. They have some that are printed on glossy paper. They have some that are printed on photo paper. And then they have some that are done on fabrics. And these 6-digit numbers are the ones that are done on fabrics. What I found really interesting as I was going through this was all of these were fabric swatches. Light reflects differently off fabric than it does off paper. Right, light reflects differently off of glossy paper than it does on matte paper. That's why Pantone does their libraries on different types of media, because light reflects differently. In the fashion industry, we're looking for those 6 digits. That's what's going to make it important to us, because that's what says it's printed on fabric. I love what they have to say here about the faithfulness and constancy of blue with the energy and excitement of red, because aren't we in that space right now? Aren't we in that place right now where we want that constancy and that predictability, but we're also ready to get out of it? Yes. So they put together a whole color palette on balancing act and a whole concept behind what it means to be balanced, because haven't we all felt so out of balance over the past couple of years, and haven't we all felt so disrupted, right? So Pantone took that feeling that we're all having and put it into color. So it's the balance between warm and cool, and the artful pieces and that liveliness and vibration, okay? Haven't we all been digging into our own internal wells? Haven't we been trying to find that energy? Haven't we been trying to dig into the next realm? Okay? Pantone put that into color. I've been stuck in my house for so long. I want to get out and see nature, right? I'm tired of wearing sweats. I want something sparkly, right? And isn't that what Pantone is talking about right now? about how we all need to be rock stars. We all need to be the stars of our own show. We all need to step into our own authentic selves, right? And this is what Pantone is talking about. So what Pantone has done here is they've taken the spirit of the times, the zeitgeist that we are all feeling as a collective entity, and we are all feeling because of the situation that we've been through, and it's putting it into a color palette. Pretty amazing forecasting, right? I thought it was really interesting that they put all of this into a PowerPoint template, and that I could go into a PowerPoint template and find inspiration and find research. And I could really use a sense of playfulness right now. How about you all? Yeah. And then Pantone is talking about how to use these. So they're giving us tools on how to take these colors that they're giving us as forecasts and how to turn them into our designs. And they're giving us tools here on how to pull those colors and move them forward into our artwork and into our designs. And this came from a PowerPoint template. Okay. So that was a really good example of trend forecasting, and a really good example of a company that has the resources to go around and see what's happening in the world and then take it and synthesize it and turn it into something that we all can use, because we cannot travel to all those places in and of ourselves, right? This is an example of looking around at what I see and using those things that I see around me every day and turning them into inspiration. This is a very important part of the research process, and I don't want you all to forget it. Take pictures of your friends. You see something cool on the street, take a picture. A stranger's walking down wearing something you really like, say, hey, I'm sorry, can I take your picture? Right? Don't do it covertly. But we take these images and we take these things that we see around us and we turn them into fashion ideas. You can all see Sam back here in the background. I love that she's got her little sneakers on with her sparkly dress. Like, I love that. Like, I want to put that on the runway because it's this, she's running around the city, but she's still being glamorous, right? And I love Evan's just pattern mixing and going crazy with that concept. And I love that, you know, he's wearing a pair of pants that are way too big, but he loves them, so he's wearing them anyway. Right? He got them at a thrift store and they're fantastic and he wants to wear them, so he's going to wear them. And I think that we're all moving into that place where we're like, I love this piece. I'm going to adopt this piece. I'm going to make it work for me. And this is what environmental scanning will tell us. It'll take those images that we see around us and it'll show us what we're seeing bit by bit and give us some more information that we can use to build our collections. I cannot tell you how excited my son was to get a leather jacket for Christmas and how important this leather jacket was for him and how I need to now take that leather and move it into my next collection because this is how important it is. Now, I'm going to try and find an environmentally friendly way to do that. I'm looking at some plant-based, I'm looking at some, some paper leather, but that's where I'm working. And you can just see all of this fun pattern mixing that we're seeing that people are really mixing patterns right now. And, I'm seeing it in Evan, I'm seeing it in Jaden, I'm seeing it in Davery, I'm seeing it in Sam. Like, across the board, I'm seeing a lot of pattern mixing. Okay, so the three different types of research that we have are the primary. When we go to museums, we look at architecture. The secondary, the trend forecasting services, the people who do it for a living, and then the environmental scanning, the things we see around us. Those are the three different types of research that we do. And I take those bits and pieces, and I take those concepts from all these different places, and I put them all together, and then I sit and I stare at them, right? So what am I going to do with all that information, all of those things that are coming into my mind? I have to find a way to organize it. I have to find a way to be able to use all of that information to communicate with the rest of my design team. I have to be able to find a way to take that information and turn it into something that's useful. So there are some ways that I can organize that. We can do research decks, which is usually done on PowerPoint or Google Sheets, and it's where we take the research and we kind of synthesize it into the really important pieces, and we put it into a PowerPoint with notes at the bottom that say why we think it's important. That's what we, in the industry, we call decks. We can do them on boards, and I like to do my boards in Photoshop just because I'm not one to use a lot of paper. But they can be done either physically or digitally. And we have 3 different types of boards in the fashion industry that we typically use. Now, I don't know about other industries, but I'm sure this can be applied to other arts. We have our mood board, which creates the feeling or the excitement of the season, and it's just about what makes me feel something. Then we have the inspiration board, which is these are the silhouettes and the fabrics and the colors that I want to use. And then we have the trend board, and these are the things that the trend resources are saying is important. Okay? I can either do that as 3 separate boards for my season, or I can take that information and put it on one board. In the fashion industry, you'll hear mood and inspiration sometimes used interchangeably, and someone will say a mood board while somebody else will say an inspiration board. Fashion is not an exact science, neither is art. And you'll hear people use those interchangeably. By definition, mood is what creates a mood or a feeling. Inspiration is silhouette, color, fabric. And trend is the forecasting. Okay. So I want to take you all into a little exercise. And I want you guys to do a little research and pull out some things that you think are important for the season coming up. And for today's exercise, we're going to put together something that is for spring 2023, okay? So you're thinking about what imagery do I want to use to drive my design decisions a year from now? Because what I researched today and what I think about today is going to drive my decision for next year. That's how long it takes to get a product made, okay? So I need to start looking at some things that are important right now. And I need to start thinking about how those things that are important right now are going to translate into things that might be important a year from now, okay? In order to do that, I'm going to do the 3 different types of research, which were? Primary. I'm going to go to museums. I'm going to go look at architecture. I'm going to go see the classics. Environmental scanning. I'm going to look around and see what people are wearing today, and I'm going to think about how I can make that new next year. Trend, which is also called secondary. I'm going to take advantage of the people who do this for a living and go around and look at all sorts of different imagery and pull together resources. Okay? Now, we obviously are in a confined environment, right? And we can't really conduct a lot of primary research right now because we don't have our computers in front of us or whatever. We can do a little bit of environmental scanning, but our environmental scanning is really limited to the people who are in this room right now, right? You might have some things on your phone, you might have some things that are in the background, but most of what we're going to be able to do right now in this environment where we are is secondary research. We're going to be able to look at Vogue, we're going to be able to look at other magazines, we're going to be able to look at what's provided to us from those resources that do this for a living and start to think about what they say is important. And then we can start to think about how we're going to translate that. Now for our next series, we're going to talk a lot about target market and a lot about how we start to take all of this information that we've taken together and translate it. Once we get our secondary boards together today, we may be able to get into target market a little bit, and we might be able to start to talk about that, but that's really going to be the focus of our next seminar. So what you do today will lead into what you do next time we meet. Okay? All right. So here's what I've got for you. I've got a bunch of recent magazines, and you all are welcome to tear these up and rip them apart. She's like, I want that one. I want that one. Give me that one. Okay? Yes. So I want you guys to go through these magazines, and I want you to start to look at some of the imagery that these magazines are saying is important. I've got some in my bag. And I want you to start to look at what you see here and think about who it is that you're designing for. Now, I know we haven't defined our target markets yet, and we'll do that next week. Or not next week, but next time we meet. But I want you to start to think about what you're seeing here and how this would apply to something that you might want to design. So go ahead and tear it out, honey. Yeah. Tear them up. That's what they're there for. And we're going to do a process called collage, where you all are going to take the images that are important to you, and you're going to collage them onto a poster board. And just start to create a board that you can use that will help drive some design decisions. And what you'll end up doing, what I do is I'll do this every season, and I post it over my desk, over my drawing table. And when I'm working on my drawings and I'm starting to work on my design ideas, I kind of look up to this and I kind of see, what did I say was going to drive my design decisions and what was going to be interesting to me. Okay, so there's some tape and some scissors out here. Do we have the glue sticks?
So when you said glue sticks, in my mind, they were hot glue. And 3 different stores to get you hot glue.
Oh, I meant glue sticks. That's all right. We've got some tape out here. Yeah, come on out. Share magazines, spread them around. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing and why you're doing it. Tell me what you see in each of these pictures that you're tearing apart. So I'm going to give you guys some time to sort of tear some things apart and start to do some collaging. And then I'm going to have you tell me a little bit about why you're doing it. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing here. What do some of these images mean to you?
I'm seeing a lot of two pieces, a lot of vintage stuff, a lot of stuff that goes back to people's where they came from and what was like important to them and their heritage. You know, bigger hair, natural hairstyle, stuff that you see that's more natural to what I'm getting ready and what I look like in the morning when I'm doing this. You know, colored hair, the big clips back when you do like finger waves from back in the day. Sleeves, big poofy sleeves again. All of this. Double layers, see-through with patterns on top, like you said, small purses, chains, of course, while still being elegant. And having the old school 1920s, like classic, like Hollywood vibe, but bringing it in a modern way.
Okay.
I have some more on board.
So I love the story that you just told me. And you just gave me a complete story. You talked about heritage. You talked about having someone you can relate to and having someone in the fashion industry that looks like you. You talked about fun playfulness with colored hair and clip backs, and you talked about some of the silhouettes and inspiration that you're seeing. And you talked about mood. So what you talked about here, when you were talking about some of the heritage and identification and feeling as though there was someone that represented you, that representation, what I'm hearing here has a lot to do with zeitgeist. It has a lot to do with spirit of the times. It has a lot to do with the fact that we are entering an age as a society where we are accepting ourselves for who we are and moving into understanding who we've been. This talks a lot about zeitgeist. what I'm seeing here when you were talking about the sleeves and the colors and the double layers, that talks a lot about inspiration. And that talks a lot about the silhouettes that you're seeing, the ideas that you're seeing, the concepts that you're seeing. And then what you talked about here was still making it elegant and sleek. That was mood. That was, how do I take all of this information but still give it an aesthetic? That was the mood of your collection. So here in all of this, you brought in all of it. You brought in trend, you brought in inspiration, and you brought in mood. Just in that circle that you discussed right there. Do you see how quickly that like came onto you? Yeah. What you're doing intuitively and what you're doing just by the nature of who you are is already addressing some of the principles that I gave you today. So some of the education that I gave you today is already innate in who you are.
It's like, can I like a copy of your slideshow? Like notes? I wasn't ready. I ran my notepad, all things.
Yeah, we'll definitely give you that, and we'll definitely provide you with all of that information behind the scenes. But what I'm trying to tell you is that you are innately a designer. You are innately someone who sees this research and puts it together in a way that can drive a collection. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I do that to people, honey. I do that to people. I don't know why. I don't mean to. Well, I can't. It's just who I am. Okay.
Like things that are along the lines of natural beauty. So like these tigers, mushrooms, models with like, because I'm hoping that we're gonna start taking care of our environment a little bit better in the next couple of years.
Okay.
And then another thing that I was kind of looking for is like elegance. Like this one is this is one of the first things that I ripped out. It's my favorite one I found so far because it's just like, it's natural, she's beautiful, it's a stunning model. But like, you know, like I wouldn't see that walking around and I love that. And these boots are iconic.
Okay.
But there's so
Tell me
much
what you mean by iconic.
well, like, I feel like this, like, shape, plays really well into a bunch of the other, like, things that I'm thinking of. So this is, like, the icon of my board, you feel me?
Okay.
So, like, this is the mood. This is the moment.
Okay.
And then everything else is kind of building on this, you know?
Has anybody ever had that experience where you found one image that sort of drives the whole thing? And, you know, in one moment, there's that one thing that just makes everything else happen? It happens to me sometimes. It actually happens to me a lot where I find that one image that just jumps out and everything else fits around it. And you know, I talked about the importance of research, and I talked about the importance of trend forecasting, and I talked about the importance of all of that. I don't want you to lose the immediate connection, because what you had was an immediate connection.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter whether that is in the trend forecast, it doesn't matter whether that is in anything else. You connected to it so you can build off of it. Okay, so go on.
Okay. Other things is just things that's like, I'm also hoping that we're going to be a little bit more in touch with the feminine side of our society. I feel like we're a very male-dominated society in general. So I found things that I thought were just like feminine but very powerful. So we have like, I don't know why these lights just said, oh my goodness, they highlight her so well. And that's what I want. And like, where's Zendaya? Here's Zendaya. Yeah, right, Zendaya, who is just like, she's making so much progress, and like she's an awesome lady, and she's one of the things that I hope that we can move forward to. There's a lot of other like women.
So when you talk about us as a as a masculine society and hoping that we get in touch with our with the feminine aspects, tell me what you think about as masculine versus feminine. What do you think of when you think masculine? What do you think of when you think feminine?
When I think about masculine, and given I'm a little biased because I'm like a sociology type person.
Okay.
So, I think of all the things that like force people into a box as being very masculine, and like that's what our goal is. So we want to be successful, and that's like widely viewed as a male trait of being what success means. It means like being able to control a boardroom, but like I want success to be like, oh, I taught my children kindness, you know, and like, oh, I made somebody's day, and that's what I think success is. But like our success is so much defined by, you know, the standards of the men who have had power in our society, whereas feminine is kind, it's beautiful. It's the things where you let yourself be indulgent and be kind to others, and that's, you know, very socialized, but those aspects of kindness and nurturing that are typically assigned to the feminine,
Okay.
I think everyone should benefit from those, you know?
Okay. Tell me a little bit about what you mean when you say typically assigned. Where does that assumption of typical and that assumption of assignment come from?
It's how we're socialized. I mean, like we're the media we consume, the
Okay.
things we see on TV, the way our parents are, the way we talk to each other.
Okay.
Our society brings us up to believe all these things, but we're more than that, you know? Learned that from you.
So we're more than what our society brings us up to be.
Yeah.
And we're more than what we have seen our society make typical.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And what you are reaching past is this, if I'm hearing you correctly, you are saying that you are reaching past this concept of socialization into a concept of individualization. Am I hearing you correctly?
Right on.
Okay. I'm also hearing that you have an association of power and success in financial and business terms, and that's what you're associating as power and success, but that you would like to redefine that into something that is more individualized.
Yeah, right on.
Am I hearing you correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're looking through a bunch of images and you're coming up with some very verbal statements. And you're giving a lot of, you're assigning a lot of association to these visual images from a verbal context. Okay.
Yeah.
How are you going to take that visual imagery that excites you as an artist and a designer and a human being, and that connects you to your community just by sight, and turn that into a feeling that you're creating with your own designs? What are you going to do with that?
What I'm thinking is I'll have you look at these two pieces and how there's a shape to this. Like this is a boxy dress and there's obviously shape, but it has nothing to do with the figure underneath, you know? And that's the same with this dress. This is a statement. It's everything, but it's not focused on the way that her body looks, you know? Like anybody could wear this wonderful knitted dress and they'd look amazing in it. So things that feel, I don't know how to put that in the right words, but like you get what I'm saying.
I do. Ollie, you are innately using elements and principles of design, but you don't have the terminology of the elements and principles of design. And you are innately describing to me some of the concepts and principles that go through the elements and principles of design without ever having taken an art class. I'm hearing that innately from you. What you're talking about here, and the verbiage that we use as designers, is this is shape-centric rather than body-centric. This is a rhythm and a silhouette rather than a body construct. You are using words you are using feelings to drive further social concepts, which is exactly what an artist does. We create visualization that moves society forward. And And you are using words that are really pulling from the spirit of our times and talking about how to move that forward and change that. I'm really excited and really interested to see what type of artwork you create from this, because the visualization and the verbalization that I'm getting from you is not, I see what you're seeing now that you tell me what you're seeing. I didn't see what you're seeing just looking at it. I needed to hear you describe it to me. And now that you've described it to me, I see it. I'm really interested to see how you take that into form and function. It's going to be really interesting to see how you move that in.
So to start off, I just kind of flipped through things and picked out what I liked.
Okay.
And I kind of noticed that there was a theme to what I liked. And it was like, well, first of all, I only pulled out all women. Also, it's a fashion magazine, so I mean, there's gonna be
Right.
a lot of women.
That's
But
what
I
was
really
important.
liked how these women were kind of taking over like men's fashion a little bit, especially in this one and this one.
Okay.
And I really liked how she, although the suit is like generally thought of as a masculine piece of clothing, she made it feminine, but still kept like that masculine side to it, because you don't have to be one or the other. Like you can be in the middle, you know, that's life. And then, this is just because I liked it. I just like the cat on the head. But I saw a lot of, like, these words really stuck out to me, like revelation, the other side, eye to eye. I really like this eye to eye one, and I chose to put it up here next to this Asian woman because with the pandemic, there's been a lot of Asian hate, and I think that people need to see eye to eye, that that's just not something that needs to be happening, and it's not anyone's fault that it happened. It just happened to happen, you know? And for Revelation, I put a quote under it, and it says, "Nobody needs body contouring." And so it was, I think a lot of young girls, I know that a lot of young girls like want that perfect body that they see on TV and everything like that. But as you grow older, I know I did, and a lot of people that I know as they grow older, they had this revelation that they don't need to be like that perfect person on TV. They just need to love themselves. So that's why I put it with this picture of these beautiful naked ladies just enjoying themselves and having a good time and really focusing on having, like, being social, and they're not focusing on each other's bodies or anything. Like, that's not the main focus. The main focus is each other and having a good time. That's my spiel.
So what I loved about what you were saying and what you were talking about was how you started to notice themes. That you initially just reacted to what you were reacting to, and that it was first about just, ooh, I like that. But as you started going through, ooh, I like that, you found that there were commonalities and that there were themes in the, ooh, I liked that. Are you noticing that some of the things that are, ooh, I liked that are thematic for you, are thematic for other people? Is there anything here that you might notice that is something that you pulled out that you might see in other people?
I think gender expression is a big one.
Okay.
Because there's a huge range that I chose. Like, there's a very feminine side and there's a very masculine side. And especially with the age that we're going into, it's becoming more acceptable to not go, like, directly into that form. I really think this one speaks a lot to it, too, because it's like she's hiding behind a face, and that face is, like, toxic femininity. I don't know if that's a real thing, but it sounds like it should be.
I
But
mean,
to
that's
answer your question,
that's a whole, yeah, toxic femininity. That's
yeah,
an
that definitely
interesting,
is.
that's
Well,
a
there's toxic
really,
masculinity, but then there's the other side of that, where, like, there's these stereotypes that women have to be calm and controlled and collected all the time, when we're all just people. Like, everyone has emotions and everyone has outbursts and stuff. So I feel like the face really represents her being calm and collected, but underneath is her true self, where she's just a person.
Give me just a second. I just need to take that in for a minute. That was brilliant. That was brilliant. Own that. Take that into your soul and own that. because what you just said is society changing. Not just life changing, it is society changing. So take that in. What you're creating here with your art and with your design and with your concept can change society. So tell me a little bit about what we got going on here.
So, it kind of was along the lines of, I think, how other people, you know, how we all here started, just finding this. Like, this was the first one that I saw, and I was like, oh my God. And the word that kind of...
Wait, before you go on, tell me what it was about that struck you.
It was the concept, kind of, like, the first word that came to my mind when I saw that was emergence. And, you know, it's just been really shitty for the past couple years, but I kind of sense, I don't know, in all of these photos, like a return to, I don't know, humanity in a way, you know,
Okay.
how, you know, especially with this, it's just crystals, and it is very eye-catching, but you're still focused on her face.
Oh.
And so, kind of that embracing of just color and accent, and using the things around us to create something like a sense of self.
Okay.
And that's probably, you know, something along my line as well here. You know, just showing kind of different aspects, different colors.
Okay. So the sense of self here is that even though she's surrounded by opulence and sparkle and things that would typically catch our attention, we're still focused on her.
Yeah.
And the idea that you're seeing there is that in all the, if I'm hearing you correctly, in all the noise, it's the human being that's important.
Yeah, yeah. And
Okay.
And there's also something that I've kind of, that has helped me, at least with my mental health and my outlook on the world, is especially, you know, living in America, everything feels really corporate. kinda.
Okay.
And, you know, it was interesting. I saw a video of like the fireworks show at Disney. And the thought just kind of struck me that it was like, you know, we associate things that are like humanity as far as like dreaming and believing and like a child's imagination. Like a lot of the times we associate with like a company like Disney, you know, but it's always nice for me to remind myself that no company can own that, and that the aspects of humanity, who we are, how we feel, the feeling of hope, the feeling of imagination, that's human. It's not like you can't label it. Like obviously companies try, I mean that's how they make money, but like that kind of, especially when everything feels very dark, that no matter what, humans, we find a way to be creative and enjoy our life and aspects of it that have nothing to do with what we have, really. And then to kind of embrace that through fashion, you know, specifically for this course. You know, like, I just love this. I just would never, like, think of a pattern like that. And I just think that's really cool. And also this, I don't know, because I feel in general, I guess, that there is a shift, you know, especially as we get out of, or like emerge at least a little bit from a pandemic that seems never ending, that reminds us of why we're connected.
Okay, that last sentence you just gave me threw me off of where I was going. So I want to hold on to this emergence reminding us why we're connected. And I want to come back to that, and I don't want to forget that.
Okay.
But before that, you were talking about these three images here. And they're extremely different images, but you have them grouped together and you have the word over all of them.
Yeah.
And you're seeing these very different elements as groove.
Yeah.
Explain to me how each of these elements focuses on groove.
So that, like, the word groove kind of struck me too, because going back to the level of like humanity that I myself am kind of experiencing, as far as like emerging from depression where everything feels like it's already decided, it's all black and white, you know, but you don't really have much say in anything. And all three of these images just, I don't know, they just really struck me as groove, because for here it's like it's colors, it's shapes, it is movement.
Each of our students individually today went through some research that we had available, and what we had available today was secondary research. It was magazines and fashion magazines that we see going forward. And each of the students went through these fashion magazines and pulled imagery that was important to them individually and who they are as people and who they are as designers and artists, and created a collage and an inspiration that will organize their thoughts and drive their design decisions forward. We sat down and we talked about those design decisions really closely, and we talked about the inspiration, and each student sort of dug into the imagery and why that imagery was striking them, what it was specifically about the images that they pulled that was important to who they are as a designer, and how they wanted to use that to move their design concepts forward and their art concepts forward. We spent a lot of time today really talking about design voice and really talking about how we as designers and artists tap into our own worldview and our own thought process, and also how we as designers and artists have to be aware of what's happening around us, what's happening to the world, what the spirit of the times is, how we are feeling about that, how that is affecting us individually, and how that is affecting us as a collective.